This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Okay, so let's be real. We've all done this. You're venting about life, and instead of talking to an actual therapist, you're unloading on your barista or your hairdresser or your bartender. When I was a bartender, that happened to me all the time. People told me everything. And while those conversations can be fun, let's face it, not everyone is the one to give you advice about relationships, anxiety, or depression. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp has been helping people find their right match for over 10 years. And they've got a 4.9 rating across 1.7 million sessions. All their therapists are fully licensed in the US, and all the matchmaking is done for you through the app. But don't stress, if you're not vibing with the person, you can switch anytime. And it's all online with over 30,000 therapists. More than 5 million people are served globally. It's the world's largest therapy platform. So find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1.
Subtle results, still you, but with fewer lines. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, and neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, what if I told you that there was a group of very powerful people conducting mind control experiments on humans without their knowledge? Well, you'd probably say, oh, this has to be a post-apocalyptic book or a movie. And sadly, you'd be wrong. Everything I'm about to tell you today is 100% true, and it happened here in America. This is the case of MK Ultra. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell my husband, Russ, true crime stories and he reacts to them.
What up, folks? It's your boy Russ, a.k.a. Styling and Profiling, a.k.a. Russ from the podcast, a.k.a. I Ain't Afraid of No Ghosts.
And I'm Jess, a.k.a. Pumpkin Spice.
Oh, it's basic bitch season.
It is. I am such a basic bitch with the pumpkin spice. I love being a September baby because fall is my favorite season. And I've now started putting my pumpkins around my house. As soon as pumpkin spice drops at Dunkin', I'm there, obviously.
Wait, what about Starbucks?
No, I'm more of a Dunkin' girl.
That's a little more hood.
I will go to Starbucks sometimes, but I'm way more of a Dunkin' girl. I just am. They're just my tried and true. And every year when pumpkin spice comes out, I get it for the entire time that it's out.
Did you see the Karen who took the baseball from the boy?
Yes.
That was crazy, right? But you knew she was a Karen by her haircut. If you got that haircut, folks, you got to let your hair grow.
Or you will be profiled as a Karen.
Yeah.
No, she was so rude. She literally went up and caused a whole stink in this little kid. He got it for his kid.
Yeah.
I can't with people. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, do you think that was far enough to get her fired?
Nah, she was off the clock and she didn't physically hurt nobody. She's just a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, she should not have gotten fired, I don't think. Even if she's very hateable, I don't think she should have been fired from her job. But I guess they fired her because she works with kids.
But that's crazy.
Which is really funny.
She's probably the mean person at her job to them kids.
That's what's crazy about the world today is you can get fired for a lot of things. Posting shit on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. You get fired. Acting stupid like that at a baseball game and they catch you on camera.
I didn't even think it was that big of a deal, honestly. It didn't look like that bad. The dad was like...
she's just rude.
Yeah.
She's just mean.
She probably told them, fuck this, I was going to quit this bullshit-ass job with these stupid-ass kids anyway.
Maybe. But I think the moral of the story is there are cameras everywhere, folks.
In everyone's pocket.
And anything you say or do can and will be held against you in this world because it's recorded, probably.
Yep, just double down on your actions. Don't say sorry. And just be like, that's what I meant to do. Oh, well.
You know what, though? I think there is something to that because one thing that I can't stand is when someone says something and then they don't necessarily apologize when you confront them about it, but they don't double down either. I'm kind of like, okay, either completely apologize or double down and say, yeah, I said that.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not backtracking. I said it because I meant it. Sometimes my words get a little mixed up because I have a hard time finding the words to say to, like, get my point across.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I won't. I'll be like, oh, I didn't mean it like that, but I don't care if you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not my fault.
You do. I feel like there are a lot of people who don't just admit that they really meant what they said.
Like wives.
Oh, whatever. You always bring it back to wives.
Because it's an epidemic of abused men out there.
Yeah, okay. Okay, whatever. So this month on the Patreon, we watched, it was very much highly requested. We watched and reviewed Unknown Number, the high school catfish. And
that ugly Quasimodo looking ass mom.
Yeah, that
face looked like Picasso. Like one eye was on her forehead and one was on the bottom of her cheek.
Yeah, she's terrible. She's the worst. But if you want to hear our whole coverage of that,
spoiler alert, she got the same teeth as 50 Cent.
Spoiler alert, she does. If you want to hear us roast her for about an hour and a half and call her lots of names, head over to Patreon, sign up at the $5 tier, and you can listen to that one and all of our other True Crime and Chill episodes. And Russ has the patron shout-outs.
All right, folks. So these are the people that joined Patreon this week. Everything's cool at Patreon, so you should go there. Jackie, Kenzie, Shonda, Megan, Kai, Jessa, Skylar, Jessica, I. Taylor, Junior Ponce, James, Katie, Marley, Courtney, Slimma, Liz, Brittany, Riles, the Nile Crocodile, Brenda, Beauty and the Beef, I don't know, Luke, Angela, Bridget, and Desi Des.
Yes.
So those are the people that joined this week. Cheers to you. My drink is open. So cheers.
Cheers. We're drinking Surfside spiked teas. They're only 100 calories, so that's why I drink them.
Oh, I don't count calories. I'm trying to make myself hard to roll away.
Oh, yeah? You're trying to get fat?
Yeah, because like right now I'm kind of kidnappable. But like if I get really fat and someone tries to kidnap me, I could just fall out of my chair. That's it. I'll be right there.
So you've graduated from the Stay Fit, Stay Alive crew. Now you're in the Stay Fat, Don't Get Kidnapped crew.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah?
I'm thinking about it.
You're considering it.
But you know, I gain weight in my face and I don't want to like have a real fat face. So, you know, that's my dilemma.
Yeah. I just had an image of you deliberately falling out of your chair and someone trying to drag you away.
Yeah, think about it. Like if someone's trying to kidnap me, I'm just going to fall out the chair and then I'll flop on the floor like a fish out of the water.
I just had the whole image in my head. It's funny.
Hopefully if they drag me, it's on like, not concrete.
Not concrete. Oh, yeah, that would hurt.
One time the cops arrested me and they dragged me on concrete.
Did you like do the limp thing where you wouldn't get up?
Well, they was like, get out the car. And I was like, nope. I was like, you're going to have to carry me. You wanted to arrest me for some dumb shit. You're going to have to earn your money.
Seriously?
The motherfuckers grabbed me by my feet and dragged me in the precinct. This was before cameras, and they could do whatever the fuck they want.
Oh my God.
They arrested me for bullshit. So I was like, well, you're going to have to pick me up then. I ain't moving.
They dragged you?
They dragged me.
Oh my God. And you literally let them drag you? You didn't get up?
They got to earn that money.
That is so something you would do. How old were you?
Early 20s.
Oh my God.
But I was lighter then. I probably was like 170, so it wasn't that hard. All right, guys. So as you know, we do review of the week, and I'm gonna stop saying "as you know."
Oh, okay.
That's my fall
resolution.
Okay. Yeah, I need a resolution. I need to stop saying that.
Okay.
Because sometimes people say the same things all the time.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. I have my my phrases.
Yeah, your dad got them.
My dad
your mom
has
got
them. My mom has.
Your dad has quite a few.
Yeah, he has two in particular.
Yeah.
I think everybody has them, and if you really pay attention when you're talking to people around you, you'll hear the other people's things that they say all the time.
Yeah, but the thing is, all boomer men have the same things that they always say.
True, it's like very dad.
Yeah, they all have like this thing.
Their same sayings.
All right, so here is a review of the week.
Okay.
If you go leave us a review, I might read it. I read them all no matter what, even the ones that make fun of me and say that I'm an idiot.
Even the ones that are mean.
Yeah, because I think it's fun. So this one is from Owl, spelled funny.
Mm-hmm.
Russ has undiagnosed ADD.
Hmm.
Russ says the most unhinged things I ever heard, but that's what makes him so relatable. I've been listening since day one. I still crack up every time Russ chimes in with his ad-libs and just ignores him because she's so used to it. Jess is an amazing storyteller and gives victims dignity and the platform they deserve. And Russ adds another layer for us people with ADD.
Oh, good.
So I'm glad I could keep your attention, even though you don't have any attention span.
You're really, we're really helping all the neuro spicy people out there.
Good thing you got me.
Yeah, good thing.
Otherwise, you would just have a bunch of people over here quietly paying attention, not doing 30 things while they're listening.
True.
Right now, there's some lady in her car painting her nails, driving, sipping a Starbucks coffee, and doing her eyelashes all at once.
Yup. It's so true. That used to be me. I was that girl when I would drive. Because, my drive was so long. It really wasn't. It was 6 miles from my house to Manhattan, but it took an hour and a half to drive down there.
Yeah.
And so I would do everything. I'd do my makeup. I did everything in the car and listen to a podcast. Okay. So I've been wanting to take on this case or, subject for a very long time, but it is full of rabbit holes. And I got down into my fair share of them preparing for this week. But it is so insane, and I've just been really excited to tell you about it. Have you ever scrolled through your feed and realized half the people you follow sound exactly the same? Same outrage, same buzzwords, same recycled, regurgitated takes. It's like everyone's reading from the same script. And maybe they are.
Then I block them.
Social media isn't just a place to kill time or doom scroll after a long day at work. It's a tool, a very persuasive tool. The kind that decides what you see, nudges how you feel, and quietly tells you what matters to you. The scariest part is, most of us don't even notice it's happening. I mean, we know it's happening, but it's way easier to recognize it in other people than it is ourselves. Now, here's where it gets historical. Our government has at times been unhealthily obsessed with the idea of controlling minds.
Yeah.
Not metaphorically, literally. During the Cold War, programs like MKUltra involved experiments on unsuspecting victims using drugs, hypnosis, and sensory deprivation. Files were classified, reports were shredded, and the public got whatever version someone decided was safe to release. So when you put those two things side by side, a history of secrecy and modern platforms engineered to influence millions, this isn't some dramatic movie pitch. It's a cautionary tale. This isn't a conspiracy. And when I went into this, I thought this was a conspiracy.
Yeah, MKUltra.
Yeah, I thought it was a government conspiracy that I was researching.
Or a light beer at less than 100 calories.
But it's not a conspiracy. Every single thing I am going to tell you today is facts. It is history. And it all really happened. This episode isn't about making you paranoid. It's about making you curious and very careful. Listen closely to the layers throughout this story. Who is saying this and that? Who are the key players? And what keeps getting edited out? Because just like today, whether we want to admit it or not, they only let us know what they want us to know.
And who are the theys?
That's the question.
It's something we'll never find out because they'll deflect forever.
And maybe keeping us distracted by spending hours on our carefully curated algorithm in our confirmation bias loophole is exactly the mission. Who knows? One day, a podcast host might write a story about a top secret mind control mission called MK Algorithm. Are you ready?
Yes.
It's November 28th, 1953, in New York City. The Statler Hotel sits right across from Penn Station. It's the kind of place that businessmen check into, disappear for a night, and nobody thinks twice about it. On this particular night, something happened that still doesn't make sense more than 70 years later. Around 2:30 in the morning, on the 10th floor, a man named Frank Olson can't sleep. He's pacing the floor in his room. He's unraveling behind the door of room 1018A. Hours later, Frank went crashing through the 10th floor window and slammed onto the sidewalk below. The doorman ran out from his desk, out to Frank, who was miraculously still alive and choking on his own blood.
No.
Frank Olson was trying desperately to say something to the doorman. But after a minute of struggling to speak, he took a deep breath and he died. Police wrote it up as a suicide, case closed. But nothing about this case was simple. Frank Olson wasn't some random hotel guest in town for a simple business trip. He was a 43-year-old government scientist, a family man. And the deeper you look into who Frank Olson was and what he was doing in New York that night, the stranger the story gets. Frank worked at Fort Detrick, right here in Maryland, the Army's headquarters for biological warfare research during the Cold War. On paper, he was a bacteriologist. But in reality, his job put him right in the middle of some of the U.S. government's darkest experiments: biological weapons, chemical weapons, and later drugs. Just 10 days before his death, Frank had been at a CIA retreat with a handful of his colleagues. They were supposed to be just talking shop at this conference. But what Frank didn't know is that he was secretly given a heavy dose of LSD. It was slipped into his drink by his own boss. He had no idea what was happening until he started to trip.
They are experimenting on their own employees?
Yeah, just wait.
That's wild.
This gets crazy. And after that night, Frank was never the same. Friends and colleagues said He suddenly was paranoid, depressed, even terrified. He told people he thought he was in trouble. He couldn't sleep. He wanted out of the CIA. So the CIA brought him to New York. They checked him into the Statler Hotel with one of their own agents, supposedly keeping watch over him. And just a few hours later, he's dead on the sidewalk. Now, the official story, the one his family was told at the time, was Frank Olson jumped. But when you know what we know now about MKUltra, the CIA's secret mind control program, his death looks a lot less like suicide and a whole lot more like a cover-up. Frank Olson's death wasn't just the story of one man and his tragedy. It was a crack in the wall, the first glimpse at something much bigger and darker. To understand how Frank ended up pacing that hotel room in New York, terrified and unraveling, we have to rewind. Back before the CIA, back before LSD existed, all the way to the ashes of World War II, when America made a deal with the devil. On May 14th, 1945, American military counterintelligence, or CI agents, in Munich, Germany, got a hot tip that a Dr. Kurt Blome, the Nazi Party's director of research into the biological warfare, was in the city. When Blome went out for a walk, one of these CI agents saw him, flashed a badge, and asked for his ID. Blome handed over his passport, which was checked against a list of wanted people, and his name was on that list. Next to it was a code that told the agent that he was a wanted man, and the code stood for arrest immediately, first priority. The reason the Americans wanted this guy was because during World War II, Dr. Kurt Blome committed atrocities against people in prisons and concentration camps.
Of course, he was a Nazi doctor. I heard they were doing all kind of experiments on people.
They were doing insanely, horribly disgusting experiments on people.
I wonder what medical discoveries we use today that the Nazis found out experimenting on people that, in such a bad way. I
know. There are some, and that would be really interesting to look into.
Yeah.
Because there really are some that were discovered.
Like things, I wonder if there are life-saving things going on today that they discovered.
Yeah. Well, he was known for developing an aerosol delivery system for nerve gas that he tested on prisoners at Auschwitz. He also produced a gas that was used to kill 35,000 tuberculosis patients who were being held at Nazi prison camps in Poland. He also bred lice and mosquitoes that were infected with malignant viruses and planned on testing them on human subjects at 2 other camps.
A random fact, mosquitoes have killed more humans than anything ever.
Yeah. Yeah, me and my patient the other day, he's from Africa, and we were talking about malaria. And fun fact, there's a specific mosquito that carries malaria, and they're all female. So
women are always bloodsuckers. Sucking the life out of us, fellas.
There's like a specific breed.
Damn.
And it's the females of that breed, and they're the ones that carry the malaria.
Wow.
Yeah.
Life is poetic.
So Dr. Blome, he was this Nazi scientist. He did all these experiments on people. He murdered many people. And then he even bred lice and mosquitoes and infected them with viruses. And he was planning on using them at 2 other concentration camps. Blome's cover was that he was working on cancer research. What he was really doing was torturing and killing thousands of people. One other thing Blome was known for was performing tests on human subjects that tried to discover ways of mind control through the use of powerful psychoactive drugs like mescaline, LSD, or acid. The data the Nazis gathered was unique because the only way to get it was to make humans suffer and die.
Wow.
Dr. Kurt Blome should have been hanged for war crimes after his capture. but he was found not guilty in the Nuremberg trials. That's insane to me.
The only way I think someone like him could probably get off is if, like, they were like, it was just my job. Like, I was just following orders, something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, we talked about, Adolf Eichmann, and he tried to pull that, it was just my job, and he didn't get off with that.
Yeah, as this guy shouldn't, but I was thinking that could be the only defense, really.
Well, once he was in American custody, I feel like the Americans should have carried out his execution. But the army had a different idea. They wanted to talk to him. Better yet, they wanted to hire him.
Wow.
And all of the most brilliant and evil scientific minds in the Third Reich. A covert government service called the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency was set up within the army with the sole purpose of recruiting these Nazi scientists. As clerks searched through files of prisoners who had these backgrounds, they would mark the worst of the worst with a paperclip. From that, Operation Paperclip was born. This is a real operation. Operation Paperclip is real. This was the code name given to a secret program where Nazi scientists were given bogus biographies and brought to the United States.
Wow.
Meanwhile, President Harry Truman signed an order that authorized up to 1,000 visas to be issued for German and Austrian scientists. But it was forbidden for any of them to be from the Nazi Party. Well, this Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency completely tossed that rule to the side, and Operation Paperclip moved forward, completely ignoring President Truman's orders. Within months, several Nazi scientists made their way to the U.S. to work for secret government experiments. Now, every tragedy has its villain. And surprisingly, there is a villain in this story that I would go so far to say is just as evil and maybe even worse than the Nazi scientists.
That's saying a lot.
The role belongs to Sidney Gottlieb. On the surface, he was an unassuming chemist with a club foot who walked with a limp and had a stutter. He wore a bow tie and had glasses. But beneath that mild exterior, he carried a vision so audacious, it bordered on madness. Gottlieb believed that the human mind could be cracked open, emptied, and rewritten, and he was willing to use anyone to prove it. July 13th, 1951 was Sidney Gottlieb's first day of work at the CIA, the super secretive government agency, which was born right after the end of World War II. They don't just gather and process intelligence, but they employ agents that carry out secret missions all over the world, like assassinations. Something the CIA wanted to do was learn to control the human psyche. Mind control was huge at this time. It was being pushed and pursued by every major country. And the US believed that the Russians were going to do it first, possibly. So it was like the mission to the moon,
Oh, yeah.
It's almost the same thing where mind control became a thing where everyone was like, whoever figures this out will be able to rule the world.
Well, and now it's an AI race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now
so there's always a new race. And, maybe one day they will be able to completely control the mind.
Well, Sidney Gottlieb would eventually be the man for this job. Sidney grew up in the Bronx. He was the son of Hungarian immigrants. His parents raised him with his 3 siblings in an Orthodox Jewish household. So it's interesting that he's working side by side with Nazis.
That really is. This is the most opposite you could be.
Yeah. Sidney was born with club feet and was unable to walk, so his mother carried him everywhere when he was a kid. Sidney's father worked in the garment district as the owner of a sweatshop and earned enough money to pay for 3 surgeries to fix Sidney's feet. He walked without braces on his legs for the first time at the age of 12. Kind of reminds me of Forrest Gump. Despite the multiple surgeries, though, Sidney would walk with a limp for his entire life. Another thing that made him stand out was his super pronounced stutter.
That's how you could tell he's lying. That's what Joe says.
Joe who?
The singer.
Oh, Joe. I didn't catch that. Oh, that's funny. Some people are not going to catch that one.
It's only for the people that get it.
Yep. Despite his disabilities, he graduated from James Monroe in 1936 and attended City College, where he studied German, math, physics, and chemistry. He went on to graduate from University of Wisconsin, majoring in chemistry. He moved across the country after this to California and went to Caltech to finish his doctorate in biochemistry, and he finished it in under 3 years, which is pretty impressive. So he's a really smart guy. He also met his wife while going to school there, and her name was Margaret Moore. During their time at Caltech, World War II was raging. And when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, Sidney was about halfway through grad school, and he tried to volunteer for military service, but the Army rejected him because of his limp. And it really pissed him off because he's like, I want to do my share in this war effort. I want to go and fight, and I want to serve my country, but no one believes me that my limp won't hinder me, pretty much.
They're like, as soon as you get there, you're going to be dead. Stay here.
Yeah, exactly. Sidney wanted to find another way to serve his country. So he and Margaret moved to Tacoma Park, Maryland, right outside of D.C., where he worked for the Department of Agriculture and later the Food and Drug Administration. And while he was working there, he developed a test that could screen for drugs in the body.
Motherfucker.
The drug test.
What a piece of shit. He is the biggest snitch in history.
Well, he gets 10 times worse, so just wait.
Damn, he's ruining people's fun. Don't do drugs, kids, but,
yeah,
some...
He got so good at what he did that he was called as an expert witness in several court cases.
Number one snitch.
Sidney continued his research, but he wanted more because what he was doing wasn't fulfilling enough for him. And that's when he went to work for the CIA. In 1950, 3 years after the CIA was established, they started working on a top secret project called Project Bluebird. Before MKUltra, before the full-blown chaos of mind control experiments, there was Project Bluebird. It's 1950, the Cold War is just starting, and the CIA is obsessed with one terrifying idea. What if our enemies could break the human mind, bend it, and make people do things they'd never normally choose to do? But what if we could do the same to them? It started with Project Bluebird, a small, secret CIA program supposedly designed to figure out how to make people talk under interrogations. They conducted interrogation technique experiments on people who knew what they were getting into. So like military men, other CIA agents. It was pretty straightforward. And these people knew what they were signing up for. They were going into mock interrogations, pretty much. But by 1951, Bluebird had grown to Project Artichoke.
What names? This is crazy.
So the CIA would choose names that didn't give away what the project was actually about. So they would pick random things.
They should just number it.
Yeah, I know.
Some nerd thought that was cool.
So Project Artichoke is what evolved from Project Bluebird. And suddenly it wasn't about just asking questions anymore. Now we're talking drugs, hypnosis, and experiments meant to bend people's minds without them even knowing it. So fast forward to 1953, just 1 year later, and the whole operation got rebranded as MKUltra.
Now they wanted to make a cool name.
Well, what started as let's figure out how to get intel became full-on mind control research, all wrapped in layers of secrecy and red tape. And if that doesn't make us uneasy, I don't know what will, because that's really scary. that they had these ideas to do this.
But it doesn't scare me because it didn't work.
Oh, wait, it worked. Just wait.
Yeah, but they're not controlling people like a remote control car. Like,
no, but
they could sway your opinion, I guess. Like all you buffoons with your phones.
Well,
I'm on my phone a lot too. But my algorithm is pimple popping, people fighting in parking lots,
breastfeeding,
and women breastfeeding. I can't get rid of the breastfeeding, folks. I don't know what happened. It's so annoying.
That's taken us back to episodes a long time ago when you talked about that. That was so funny.
Just one time. And then I got messages after that like, thanks, Russ. Breastfeeding videos just popped up on mine now, too.
Yeah, because we said it on the pod.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So enjoy that.
In the early days of Project Bluebird, the CIA scientists tested several illegal drugs. One of the first ones they tested was THC, active ingredient in marijuana.
Go to viahemp.com and use Wife of Crime 1 as your code.
Yes. They predicted that it was going to work so well that they gave it the nickname TD, or truth drug. They tried a lot of this stuff on themselves. They created an undetectable, odorless, tasteless, and colorless liquid that could be added to just about anything. They dosed themselves in different mediums like candy, salad dressing, and even adding it to mashed potatoes. And they smoked it too, all in the name of science. So their conclusion after trying all this weed was, this is what was documented, quote, brings on a state of irresponsibility, appears to relax all inhibitions, and the sense of humor is accentuated to the point where any statement or situation can become extremely funny, end quote.
I like that.
So it's not really the effect they were trying to get from people that they were interrogating. So they gave up.
They would ask them a question, then they start dying laughing at them like, you got any snacks around here?
I know, right? So they gave up on marijuana pretty quickly. The next one on the list was cocaine, which they gave to mental patients that included injecting it. They thought that it would produce feelings of, elation and make people very talkative, which it does. But they didn't get great results from coke either because they found it to be way too unreliable.
People on coke are so annoying to be around.
People on coke are probably the most annoying to be around.
Unless you're on coke too, and then you're both annoying to each other while you keep both licking your lips.
And moving your jaw back and forth.
Yeah.
And talking a million miles an hour.
About shit no one wants to hear.
Yeah. So true. Heroin was the next drug they tried. Their strategy was to use heroin and other addictive drugs in reverse. So they would get a person addicted, and then they'd leverage the stress of the withdrawal to get answers during an interrogation session.
That's just torture. That's not mind control.
Yeah. They had a little bit better luck with heroin, but it wasn't exactly what they were looking for. When Sidney Gottlieb started working for the CIA, he read up on all the previous experiments. The tests were conducted on human subjects by the Nazi scientists that the government recruited. One drug that the Nazis had tested was LSD, and Sidney wondered about that one. He decided to try it on himself first, under the guidance of a CIA physician. So Sidney and Dr. Abramson administered the acid, and his first trip was very enlightening. He actually documented his experience, and he said, quote, I happened to experience an out-of-bodiness, a feeling as though I am in a kind of transparent sausage skin that covers my whole body and is shimmering, and I have a sense of well-being and euphoria for most of the next hour or 2 hours, and then it gradually subsides.
That was a good advertisement for some LSD.
Yeah, so that's what he wrote. That was his experience, and he was suddenly really excited about the prospect of using LSD for mind control, so he amped up his experiments. Fall is in full swing, and honestly, it's the perfect time to refresh your wardrobe with pieces that feel as good as they look. Luckily, Quince makes it ridiculously easy to look polished, stay warm, and actually save money without compromising on quality. Quince has all of the elevated fall essentials, like 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters, starting at just $50. Washable silk tops and skirts, and perfectly tailored denim. I've been eyeing their wool coats too. They look straight up designer, but the price tag is a fraction of what you'd pay anywhere else. And the quality is just as good, if not better. Nothing feels softer than a cashmere sweater, and I'm super excited that it's now about to be sweater weather, and I can wear my cashmere sweater. I feel fancy in it. So keep it classic and cozy this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/wifeofcrime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/wifeofcrime, quince.com/wifeofcrime. I love summer. Something about it just makes you feel your best. The sun is shining, you have a tan, everything just feels good in the summer. We need the sun. It's a good time to create healthy meal habits that last. That's why I love Green Chef. Green Chef makes it super easy to spend less time in the kitchen and more time enjoying the summer. Their recipes feature fresh, organic, seasonal produce and 100% responsibly sourced proteins. They're perfect for supporting your wellness journey, and so many of us are on that right now. With over 80 dietitian-approved weekly meal options from Mediterranean and plant-based to protein-packed and even gut and brain health, it's easy to find meals that fit your lifestyle. Plus, you can switch it up each week to match your schedule or your mood. Make this summer your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50wifeofcrime and use code 50wifeofcrime to get 50% off your first month and then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50wifeofcrime at greenchef.com/50wifeofcrime. The first people after his own experience were all volunteers. These were people from the area in the CIA that he worked in.
Like, yeah, I'm down to get high.
Yeah, I mean, they were all volunteers. They all knew exactly what they were in for. These people either agreed to do it in a controlled environment like he did, knowing the dose and when they were getting it. And then others were open to not knowing how much they got and when they were getting it, so that there would be different reactions and an element of surprise there, and they could be observed like totally objectively. And this LSD experiment proved to be successful. While these people were tripping, they were subjected to mock interrogations where they lost control over what they said and the oaths they took to protect national security. Sidney really thought he was onto something. Through his experiments, he was trying to find a truth serum. However, while some people became more docile and lost inhibitions, others had opposite reactions and felt like they had superhuman strength. They refused to cooperate with the tests. Others became paranoid and completely had like nervous breakdowns. At first, the CIA's experiments were voluntary. They signed up, they were dosed, they were observed, sometimes enjoying the thrill, sometimes regretting it, depending on the reaction your body had. But Sidney Gottlieb wanted more. Volunteers were too predictable. Volunteers played by the rules. So the experiments began to change. Suddenly, it wasn't just willing participants. It was unsuspecting Americans, ordinary people going about their lives, walking into a bar, a hotel room, or an apartment, never knowing they're stepping into a laboratory. This is when MKUltra truly became a shadow world, where the line between reality and experiment blurred, where your neighbor, your friend, even your own husband or brother could be a test subject, and you'd never know it. The subjects of these tests were basically expendable in the eyes of the CIA. If they died during experiments, they were just disposed of like trash. Sidney Gottlieb flew to Tokyo to take part in the interrogation of 4 Japanese people who were accused of working for the Russians. They were taken to a secret location where they were given heavy doses of sedatives and stimulants and then relentlessly questioned. They all gave confessions that they were working for the Russians. The operators took them into Tokyo Bay on a boat where they were shot and dumped overboard. Sidney and the team of CIA operatives then went to South Korea, where they did the same thing to 25 North Korean POWs. This time, they were grilled to denounce communism. All of them refused, and they were all executed. In the winter of 1952 to 1953, the team, including Sidney Gottlieb, went to Munich, Germany, and set up an interrogation room in a safe house where they interrogated tons of people who were, to them, expendable. Some of them were given doses of drugs concocted at Camp Dietrich. Others were subjected to electroconvulsive shocks. Neither experiment worked, and these expendables were all killed and their bodies burned.
Wow.
Yeah, folks, this is our government, okay? Just want to keep reminding you guys, this is all real, and this is our government doing this.
And this happened, like the 50s?
Yes.
What's probably crazy is we probably have the same senators and shit in there since the 50s, these old fucking crooked bags.
They all look like they've been there that long.
They all remind me of the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. Like, you open the thing, and they're like telling you a story of stocks they should have bought, but they didn't while they're shaking.
I haven't seen Tales from the Crypt in so long.
That's what all these old bags look like. That need some term limits. These people should be retired, collecting Social Security and shit.
Yeah, living life, not making decisions for us.
Yeah, they don't even know what's going on. They probably don't even know how to use their phone that good. And when they use it, they definitely use it with one eye like closed and with their arm extended so they could see it. But sometimes I got to do that too.
So back in the U.S., Sidney was doing experiments on mental health patients. One of them was a professional tennis player who had gone to the New York Psychiatric Institute for treatment for depression after he got divorced. 42-year-old Paul Hock was injected with mescaline without any warning or any kind of explanation. They did it a total of 6 times over the course of a month. Paul complained that his, quote, treatment was giving him hallucinations and asked if they could stop giving him whatever it was that they were giving him. They proceeded to then give him a dose 14 times higher than the first 7 doses. Paul protested when they gave him the injection, but they held him down and did it anyway. He received the injection at 9:53 a.m. and was dead by 12:15. He is a vulnerable patient because he's in a mental health facility, which automatically makes you a vulnerable person.
And if you tell people that people are holding you down and doing experiments on you, you're in a mental home, they're going to be like, no, they're not.
Yeah, they're going to think you're crazy.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to me, like just thinking about him being in this facility, being there because he wanted treatment. He thinks he's going to treatment. He thinks he's getting a medicine that's supposed to help him. Meanwhile, he's just an expendable to them. They look at him as nothing. They're like, let's just see what happens. And they inject him and he dies within a couple hours. Sidney Gottlieb wanted more because he thought he was onto something. He told the director of the CIA, Alan Dulles, that he needed a super secret program that would allow him complete freedom to continue his tests on, quote, expendables, but to also test it on American citizens who may or may not be aware that they are taking a mind-altering drug. So in April of 1953, Sidney Gottlieb was named as the chief advisor on mind control in America. His new program needed a code name that reflected its ultra-sensitive nature, and this is where the name MK Ultra came from.
What does MK stand for?
So MK doesn't stand for anything, actually.
Not Michelob, not Michael Kors.
No, it doesn't stand for anything. It's just a code in the CIA. Like they say MK for different projects. And it can be projects that aren't top secret, too.
Okay.
So Sydney came up with more than 100 sub-projects under MKUltra that included studying mind control methods like psychotherapy, hypnosis, sleep and sensory deprivation without the use of chemicals. Another sub-project was to learn how much LSD a human being could take before they died. Sydney found a doctor. This is another thing throughout this whole story. Sydney is the leader. Sydney is the ultimate villain in this story. But there are many culpable doctors that went along with him that make me sick. So Sydney found a doctor named Harris Isbell, who was the director at the Addiction Research Center in Lexington, Kentucky. Dr. Isbell was willing to carry out the experiments on human test subjects. Most of the patients were Black men from the fringes of society, which meant they were less likely to complain if they were being abused, or less likely to have anyone believe them. So it made them perfect subjects for MKUltra tests. Besides trying to figure out what the human limit to taking LSD was, they also wanted to learn if using a drug like LSD and mescaline made people more susceptible to hypnosis. So Dr. Isbell began testing these drugs on 5 guys. These test subjects reported the sensation of electric shocks on their skin constantly, tingling, numbing sensations, and the feeling of being choked. They also reported that their visions were blurred and their skin looked like different colors, purple or green, to them when they looked at their own hands. They saw flickering shadows, dots of lights danced in front of their eyes. They saw colors of spinning circles, and objects would appear and be distorted or change in size in front of them.
Like when I was on those meds in the hospital.
Yeah, like when you were on pain meds that made you hallucinate. Exactly.
That was crazy. First time that ever happened to me.
One of Dr. Isbell's victims was another doctor, a former Georgia state senator named William Henry Wall. So William Wall had become addicted to painkillers after a dental procedure, and he was arrested on drug charges in 1953, and his sentence was to be carried out at the Addiction Research Center because this was an addiction facility, but it kind of ran like a prison.
Yeah, you probably couldn't come and go as you wanted.
Yeah. The experiments left him mentally impaired for the rest of his life. Dr. Wall suffered from paranoia, delusions, panic attacks, and suicidal ideation until he died. Other facilities were contracted to perform MKUltra sub-projects like the federal prison in Atlanta and a juvenile detention center in Bordentown, New Jersey, a juvenile detention center. It makes me so angry. One of the inmates was none other than infamous mobster James Whitey Bulger.
Oh, he was a murderer.
Well, this time he was in prison for armed robbery and truck hijacking. He hadn't committed his murders yet. In 1957, Whitey volunteered for what he thought was a drug experiment that was supposed to help find the cure to schizophrenia. That's what they told him. He was given doses of LSD on nearly a daily basis for 15 months, but wasn't told what he was being given. He journaled all about his experience in a notebook, about having nightmares every night and horrible LSD experiences that were followed up by suicidal thoughts and deep depression. He heard voices, and he watched a calendar on the wall move, but never told any of the attendants because he thought he would be committed. Like, he thought they would think he was insane, so he didn't tell anybody about all the stuff he was seeing. After his release, Whitey Bulger would go on to commit 19 murders and end up spending the rest of his life in jail on 2 life sentences. So he was a pretty horrible person, but he definitely didn't volunteer to participate in mind-altering experiments.
Wait, so now are they saying that Whitey Bulger did all these murders because of those experiments?
No, he's not saying that. He was a mobster.
He was already on his way. Well, he's already robbing trucks, and he probably killed people before, just wasn't on it like he ended up being.
Yeah, no, they're not saying that this is the reason, but I'm pretty much just making the point that, yeah, he was a terrible person, but he never volunteered to participate in these mind-altering experiments in Atlanta. And, could it have contributed to him acting nuts after? Maybe. Who knows? We don't know.
Maybe it calmed him down a little and he would have murdered everyone.
Maybe. The experiments weren't just done on adults. 3 top secret experiments were conducted on 12 prepubescent boys who were fed psilocybin, and a different group of 14 children ages 6 to 11 who were diagnosed with schizophrenia and given 100 micrograms of LSD every day for 6 weeks.
How'd they react?
I'm going to play a recording of 2 women who were child victims of these experiments. They were giving testimony in 1995 at a congressional hearing on MKUltra. Okay?
I'm Christy Nicola, born July of 1962, rendering me 32 years of age. I was a subject in radiation as well as mind control and drug experiments performed by a man I knew as Dr. Green. My parents were divorced around 1966, and Donald Richard Ebner, my natural father, was involved with Dr. Green in the experiments. Dr. Green performed radiation experiments on me in 1970, focusing on my neck, throat, and chest, 1972 focusing on my chest and my uterus in 1975. Each time I became dizzy, nauseous, and threw up. All these experiments were performed on me in conjunction with mind control techniques and drugs in Tucson, Arizona. Dr. Green was using me mostly as a mind control subject from 1966 to 1973. His objective was to gain control of my mind and train me to be a spy assassin. The first significant memory took place at Kansas City University in 1966. Don Ebner took me there by plane when my mom was out of town. I was in what looked like a laboratory, and there seemed to be other children. I was strapped down, naked, spread eagle, on a table, on my back. Dr. Green had electrodes on my body, including my head. He used what looked like an overhead projector and repeatedly said he was burning different images into my brain while a red light flashed aimed at my forehead. In between each sequence, he used electric shock on my body and told me to go deeper and deeper, while repeating each image would go deeper into my brain, and I would do whatever he told me to do. I felt drugged because he had given me a shot before he started the procedure. When it was over, he gave me another shot. The next thing I remember, I was with my grandparents again in Tucson, Arizona. I was 4 years old.
Dr. L. Wilson Green, who claimed to have received $50 million from the Edgewood Chemical and Radiology Laboratory as part of the TSD, or Technical Science Division of the CIA, once described to Dr. Charles Brown that, quote, children were used as subjects because they were more fun to work with and cheaper, too. They needed lower-profile subjects than soldiers or government people, so only young, willing females would do. Besides, he said, I like scaring them. They in the agency think I'm a god, creating subjects and experiments for whatever deviant purposes Sid and James can think up. Sid being Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, James, Dr. James Hamilton. In 1958, I was to be tested, they told me, by some important doctors from the society, and I was instructed to cooperate, as this was a very secret project. But I was told to be brave, and all these things would help me forget. Naturally, as most children do, I did the opposite and remembered as much as I could. Dr. John Gittinger tested me, Dr. Cameron gave me the shocks, and Dr. Green the x-rays. By the time I left to go home, just like every time from then on, I would remember only whatever explanations Dr. Robert G. Heath at Tulane Medical University gave me for the odd bruises, needle marks, burns on my head, fingers, and even the genital soreness. I had no reason to believe otherwise. They had already begun to control my mind. The next year, I was sent to a lodge in Maryland called Deep Creek Cabins to learn how to sexually please men. I was taught how to coerce them into talking about themselves. It was Richard Helms, who was deputy director of the CIA, Dr. Gottlieb, Captain George White, Morris Allen, who all planned on filming as many high government agency officials and heads of academic institutions and foundations as possible, so that later when the funding for mind control and radiation started to dwindle, projects would continue. I was used to entrap many unwitting men, including themselves, all with the use of a hidden camera. I was only 9 years old when this sexual humiliation began. I would love nothing more than to say that I dreamed of so and need just to forget it. But that would be a tragic mistake. It would also be a lie. All these atrocities did occur to me and to countless other children, and all under the guise of defending our country. It is because of the cumulative effects of exposure to radiation, chemicals, drugs, pain, and subsequent mental and physical distress that I've been robbed of the ability to work and even to bear any children of my own. It is blatantly obvious that none of this was needed, nor should it ever have been allowed to take place at all. And the only means we have to seek out the awful truth and bring it to light is by opening whatever files remained on all the projects and through another presidential commission on mind control. I believe that every citizen of this nation has the right to know just what is fact and what is fiction. It is our greatest protection against the possibility of this ever happening again.
How insane is that?
Yeah, all this stuff with the children, man, that's even worse to me.
Of course. 9 years old, being taken to a lodge in Deep Creek, Maryland, to teach her how to seduce men at 9 years old and how to sexually please men. And this is our government doing this?
That wasn't no experiments there. That was them being some perverts.
I mean, the whole thing.
Because she said she was with them too.
Yeah, she was.
So these dudes was fucking perverts in the name of experiments.
And, you know, these testimonies were given in 1995 in front of Congress. And these women, along with other victims, these were just two of the ones I picked out, but these women, along with other victims, named tons of doctors. And obviously, Sidney Gottlieb was in charge of all of it, so they named him. But it is just, hearing them talk about it is insane to me. Just the stuff that they would put these little kids through.
But this is what happens, it seems like, when people have unchecked power.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have unchecked power, someone's like, what? Like someone would say something.
Yeah. I mean, there was only one guy above him who was Helms, and he was the director of the CIA. He was the top guy, and he was down with all this. He was there. She named him. He was there.
Fucking child molesters.
MKUltra even conducted experiments on Canadians at Allen Memorial Institute in Montreal. Dr. Ewan Cameron ran CIA-funded experiments on hundreds of patients, like Patricia Pearson, Linda McDonald, and Helene McIntosh. Many of these patients were admitted for ordinary mental health care. These women in particular were admitted for postpartum depression, something that we now know way more about and understand on a hormonal level, and we're able to treat it mostly outpatient pretty easy. These patients were subjected to hours of repeated audio messages, massive doses of LSD, prolonged electroshock therapy, and extreme sensory deprivation. I have a picture that I'll show you, or I'll post it on the Instagram when I post this episode, of a sensory deprivation suit, and they would force these patients in these suits, and it's like your head is covered and your hands are covered, and then they would strap you down. And these patients who were just there for regular mental health issues like postpartum depression, anxiety, depression, they're being subjected to all these things. This was obviously not psychiatric treatment at all. This was McGill University, the Canadian government, and the CIA lying to patients and their families and intentionally harming people to test mind control on them because they were vulnerable. They were there in a mental hospital. They had no choice. And like we said earlier, if you say these things are happening, it almost makes you look crazier. This whole thing is giving One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
The results were devastating. Patricia, Linda, and Helene all experienced permanent memory loss, personality changes, and lifelong trauma. Decades later, some of them sued the CIA, the Canadian government, and the American government, and they received some compensation from Canadian courts. But for many, the damage can't be undone. And some never lived long enough to see any justice at all because they died early.
I was tired. I was depressed. My back was hurting. And so he said to the children's father, why don't you go to Montreal and visit this Dr. Ewan Cameron, this famous man who has all of these accolades, and have an assessment. So we went. My medical file even says that I took my guitar with me. And that was the end of my life. Within 3 weeks, Dr. Cameron decided to call me an acute schizophrenic and ship me up to the sleep room.
How long did they put you to sleep for?
I was in a coma for 86 days.
86 days of unbroken
comatose.
sleep.
Total comatose state. I had to be toilet trained. I was a vegetable. I had no identity. I had no memory. I'd never existed in the world before. Like a baby. Just like a baby that has to be toilet trained.
She eventually went home, her depression gone, and her entire previous life gone with it.
And this is one of the twins. That was in 62 before I went to the Allen. And this is the same one, I think. I just look at the pictures and I know who that is, who they are, but I don't remember them as my children at all. I mean, I know that they came from my body, but there's no, that's all. I don't know, and that's because I was told that. So these are my children.
Well, I was given LSD about every second day and injected. And sometimes it was mixed with sodium amytal and other drugs. I was aware of the speaker under my pillow. I was aware of the words.
Which were?
You killed your mother.
You killed your mother.
Yeah.
Who was alive and well.
Who was alive and well. And
over and over again, this voice is done.
Well, like I say, it takes about 2 seconds to say that message. And this was going on for 23 days. And when I went home, after being there, and when I went home, my mother was there, and why was she there? And it didn't make any sense.
It was an awful feeling to realize when I found this out that the man whom I had thought cared about what happened to me didn't give a damn. I was a fly. Just a fly.
So those are the Canadian patients that I just played, a couple of them.
That was interesting that they actually erased someone's memory.
They erased her memory.
So it seemed like they were wondering how long does someone have to be in a coma to probably erase their memory.
Yeah. I mean, it's really insane.
And then the other dude, they made him think he killed his mom. I don't know how old they were when they were doing these.
These were adults, but they didn't consent to any of it. I mean, they thought they were getting psychiatric treatment. They didn't consent to any of this stuff. So it's wildly unethical and really abusive. And these are respected physicians out of McGill University. This is like a huge university. And this is happening all over America and in Canada.
I thought Canadians were way too nice to do that.
Apparently not. One MKUltra sub-project was to lure unsuspecting people to a safe house and dose them with LSD or whatever drug Sidney Gottlieb was wanting to test at the time. Safe houses were set up by the CIA in San Francisco with undercover agents who posed as hippies. They would lure other hippie kids and runaways in the houses, making them believe it was like a commune. The undercover agents would then drug them without them knowing. Okay, so they would drug them by like lacing their drinks and stuff like that, and then observe their behavior. At one of the safe houses established in San Francisco, they added a little something else to the experiment. Sex workers. They would lure clients, dose them up, And they had sex with the victims with hidden audio equipment.
I wouldn't call those ones victims.
Well, I mean,
they had sex with them and gave them drugs. I don't think they were victimized.
Okay, well, still, you're getting drugged and you didn't consent to it. It's all about consent. You went in as a John to, have sex with a hooker. And that's fine. That's your prerogative. But you didn't ask to be drugged. And they are drugging them. And that's not okay. They also are watching them and listening to them. They have all the mirrors are two-way mirrors. And you have people secretly watching you have sex with a hooker. This is violating your humanhood.
I wonder if they still had to pay or they were like, to lure them in, like, yeah, this one's on the house.
I don't know. The subproject was given the name Operation Midnight Climax.
See, now they're not hiding the name anymore.
Well, that one wasn't hiding it, yeah, but they called it Operation Midnight Climax.
And it makes sense.
So interesting to me that our government called these places safe houses, but these people were being unknowingly drugged. Probably one of the most unsafe things that could ever happen to anyone. The director of this subproject was named George Hunter White, an agent with the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, and he ran this experiment for Sidney Gottlieb. Whatever Sidney wanted him to test, and however he wanted him to test it, George White was down for it. Sidney wanted to see if drugs, combined with sex, further loosened men's inhibitions to tell all their secrets. They would also pay the sex workers extra to stay with the men after they finished having sex, to stage intimacy to see if the men would talk a little more, like a little pillow talk. White was also willing to use any method of distributing the LSD. They would spray it from aerosol cans, but the day that the experiment was supposed to take place with the aerosol cans, it was really hot outside, and so they opened all the windows in the safe house, and so they couldn't use the aerosol spray. Sidney created all sorts of compounds for the drug, so they could try many methods on the men. He made little glass ampules that when you crushed it under someone's foot, it released a gas. Or they even used drug-laced swizzle sticks for someone's drinks to stir them, like a stirrer, drink stirrer.
It's very spy, James Bond type stuff going on.
Yeah, it's very James Bond. And they even had a hypodermic needle that was so tiny it could pierce through a wine cork, and poison could be injected into the bottle without even leaving a hole. There was no detectable hole after that. So now we're back to Frank Olson, the man who died in the beginning of our case. What was his role in MKUltra? Frank Olson wasn't just some lab tech doing paperwork. He was one of the CIA's top biochemists, working out of Fort Detrick on some of the most secretive and morally questionable experiments the government had ever run. In the early 50s, he was pulled into MKUltra, helping prepare the doses of LSD, mescaline, and other drugs for human testing. Olson followed Sidney Gottlieb's instructions to the T, watched people break down under the drugs, and he started to realize just how dark the program had become. He and Gottlieb had a working relationship, but it was very tense. Gottlieb was all about the mission, pushing limits, doing anything it took to make it happen. It didn't matter whose lives he ruined. It didn't matter who died. He didn't give a fuck. He just wanted to get this mind control figured out. Olson, on the other hand, he was seeing the human cost, and it was eating him alive. Frank Olson realized what had started as scientific curiosity was fast becoming something so much darker.
He's becoming like a mad scientist.
He is. Sidney Gottlieb was definitely a mad scientist.
Like he's going to try to create a Frankenstein or something, you know?
Mm-hmm. He realized the program is willing to destroy the lives of ordinary people in America and beyond, all in the name of mind control. In the weeks before his death, Frank Olson was unraveling. He'd spent years following orders, mixing chemicals, and watching people's minds get twisted under the influence of LSD and other drugs, all in the name of national security. But suddenly, the weight of all of it hit him like a freight train. Olson was jittery, irritable, and plagued with sleepless nights and nightmares. He started confiding in his friends and colleagues, hinting at the experiments that they went too far, that innocent lives were being destroyed, the secrets he couldn't take back. He had meetings with Sidney Gottlieb and other CIA officials, and the meetings became tense, almost confrontational, because Olson's conscience began to clash with their obsessions. He wasn't just scared of being caught. He was terrified of what they had done to people, and that he was completely complicit in it. And in the final days, that fear would lead him straight to the hotel room in Manhattan, where his life would end, leaving questions that would haunt history for decades.
Oh, he was murdered.
MKUltra continued until its leader, Sidney Gottlieb, finally began to realize there's no way to control a human mind. Sidney actually wrote in one of his notebooks, quote, "No effective knockout pill, truth serum, aphrodisiac, or recruitment pill is known to exist," end quote. It was an admission that years of subjecting humans to horrible experiments was a failure. But it didn't stop him. He continued for 4 more years after admitting this. Research in the manipulation of human behavior is considered by pretty much every single top medical professional to be unethical. Therefore, the CIA retired MKUltra in 1964. It was replaced with a new program called MK Search, which had the same purpose: to develop the capacity to manipulate human behavior in a predictable manner through use of drugs. The biggest difference was that the experiments would be conducted in a conventional scientific environment, and all the people being tested were not mental patients, unsuspecting citizens, prisoners. All of that would be stopped, and these people would volunteer to be tested and know everything and consent to everything.
So kind of like normal science.
Yeah, normal science. In late January 1973, the director of the CIA at the time, Richard Helms, was removed by President Nixon. Not because of MKUltra, because Nixon was pissed off at him when Helms refused to provide the president with a cover-up for Watergate. Okay, so Nixon wasn't doing this because he's like a swell guy. We all know that Nixon was a piece of shit. And he wanted the CIA to help him cover up the Watergate scandal. And Richard Helms wouldn't help him, so he fired him. Before leaving the CIA, Richard Helms ordered that all of the records from MKUltra be destroyed.
Wow.
Sidney Gottlieb agreed with him and even gave orders to the CIA Records Department himself. The program existed for over 10 years, but there was very little documentation saved at all. In all, 7 boxes of records were destroyed. The same day the records were destroyed, Dr. Sidney Gottlieb retired from the CIA.
No coincidence.
He was awarded one of the CIA's highest awards, the Distinguished Intelligence Medal. After retirement, Sidney and his wife Margaret sold off their property and all of their possessions, and for the next 2 years traveled the world, volunteering in various locations in Australia, India, Africa, and several other places. While Sidney was off traveling the world, the U.S. Senate formed a special panel to dig into the shady intelligence operations, because they knew some of this was going on, but they needed to figure it all out. It was led by Idaho Senator Frank Church, and it became known as the Church Committee.
Take him to church.
Take them to church, that's right. Their mission was to expose what the CIA had really been up to. Frank Olson's death was on their radar, and they knew that something shady was going on. But what they stumbled on was so much bigger. Buried in the files they uncovered were references to assassination plots. Most of the names were blacked out, but one name wasn't. Guess whose name was on this assassination list?
President.
Sidney Gottlieb. So the CIA was now planning to assassinate Sidney. So Sidney gets called back to Washington, and he hires this high-powered defense attorney, Terry Lesner, who immediately tells him, you need to ask for immunity. Sidney at first kind of plays the tough guy, and he's like, I'm not going to hide behind the Fifth Amendment, whatever. And Lesner warns him straight. He says, you're about to become the CIA's sacrificial lamb.
Mm-hmm.
You were on an assassination list. And this gets Sidney's attention.
He probably was like, oy vey.
So he asks for immunity, and it's granted. And he slips into the congressional hearing room under a fake name, Joseph Scheider. So the public never hears the name Sidney Gottlieb, and they never hear the voice of Joseph Scheider. The U.S. Senate rules to seal his testimony for 50 years. Behind closed doors, Sidney finally admits the obvious. He was the man in charge of the LSD research. He spills the beans about the prisoners, the psychiatric patients, and even the random people that had been drugged without consent. They talk about all the children and all the doctors involved. But there was a clear pattern. Every time the questions got too detailed, Sidney either softened the truth or claimed that his memory had gone foggy. After decades running MKUltra, he suddenly couldn't remember things. When the trial was finished, he left D.C. with his reputation intact, and the Justice Department was ready to pounce on him with charges for destroying the MKUltra files, until they realized his immunity protected him. So the case of MKUltra was officially closed.
You got to be able to get him on something else.
So the church committee's final report downplayed the entire thing. A short summary, some references to Bluebird, Artichoke, and MKUltra, but nothing close to the horror of what really happened. And Washington, as usual, was ready to just move on. But then, in 1977, the CIA's new director got hit with a FOIA request. So this archivist stumbled upon more than 1,000 pages of financial records that the CIA missed when they destroyed the files.
Wow.
They weren't just receipts. They laid out line by line how MKUltra was run. Researcher John Marks is who filed the FOIA request. And he held a press conference, and it rocked the agency. He revealed to the public all the details about the experiments on unsuspecting citizens and children and patients involving drugs, radiation, electroshock, all signed off by Sidney Gottlieb. And this was the first time Sidney's name was out in public. So this time, he couldn't hide. He was hauled back to Washington again. Same playbook. He demanded immunity. He pled bad health issues, testified from a private room. Once again, his voice was in the chamber while his face stayed hidden. He painted MKUltra as a patriotic mission, born from Cold War panic. Destroying the files? Oh, that was just us cleaning up some papers. I didn't destroy it intentionally. This is not a cover-up, he insisted. Senators asked some questions, but never the ones that mattered, of course, right? They didn't ask how many people died, how many lives were wrecked, how far did this really go? And whenever they would even get close to asking those types of questions, Sidney's memory conveniently failed him again.
Someone just needs to put him on a new assassination list.
Right.
That's it. Once he was given immunity, the CIA didn't want to kill him no more?
I mean, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, because now I'm curious. Like, immunity doesn't block bullets. Like,
yeah.
So I guess they took him off.
I guess they did. 3 of his colleagues testified after him. And like clockwork, they had the same selective amnesia. And just like that, Sidney Gottlieb, the architect of the CIA's most notorious mind control program, walked away. By the late 70s, Gottlieb had slipped back into civilian life. At 60, he went back to school to become a speech therapist, and he told his friends that he wanted to help kids who stuttered like he had. Meanwhile, John Marks, the guy who FOIA'd the CIA, and got all of this testimony and all this information, wrote a book called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, which named Gottlieb as the mastermind of MKUltra. Survivors of the program, including mobster Whitey Bulger, finally realized the truth. They hadn't volunteered for medical research. They didn't just go to a psychiatric hospital to receive treatment for their depression or anxiety. They had been guinea pigs in a government experiment. By 1980, Sidney and his wife, Margaret, had moved back to Virginia. He worked quietly in local schools, blending into the community like nothing ever happened.
Hello, Sidney.
When he died in 1999, at the age of 80, Margaret never revealed the cause or what happened to his ashes. Rumors swirled that he may have taken his own life, but nothing was confirmed. The man who once ran secret torture labs and ordered assassination plots ended his life as a small-town speech therapist. His legacy, MKUltra, and the wreckage it left behind has never stopped haunting the people whose lives it destroyed. And Frank Olson's death remains ruled a suicide to this day. If we only knew the words he was trying to say in his final moments to the doorman while lying on that New York City sidewalk. So here's the thing. As I said at the start, I didn't tell you this case to scare you. I told it to caution you. In a time like right now, this week, where division and extremism are exploding around us, ask yourself, how much of what you believe is really yours? And how much has been carefully shaped for you? The same government that once gave Nazis a free pass to work in secret labs here on our soil, the same government that experimented on unsuspecting patients in Canada and here in our hospitals, prisons, and cities, the same one that shredded reports and lied to the public for decades, is still the one shaping the narratives we see every day. Social media isn't magic. It's the modern lab, where influence is measured in likes and clicks instead of LSD doses and psychic driving tapes. And just like MKUltra, most of what you're shown is carefully curated, edited, and packaged so it feels like the truth. Justice was never served. The past isn't behind us. It's woven into the feeds and headlines and the trending topics that we scroll through without thinking. So the real question isn't if we're being manipulated. The question is whether we'll notice when it happens again. And that's the case of MKUltra.
Put your phone down, folks. Reset that algorithm.
Reset your algorithm immediately.
No, because then it's going to start fresh, and mine is finely curated with garbage. No political nonsense on mine. A little bit of UFOs mixed in with boobs and pimple popping and sports betting. And
yeah, if you are noticing that your algorithm is very swayed to one side, reset it. If you're noticing that all you get is political views or
just trying to make you angry.
It's all trying to make you angry. You got a little
screen in front of your face giving you bad news all day long.
It's so true. Reset your algorithms and
go watch a little porn like a regular person.
Just get off the phone so much, everybody. Because
me too. Jess too.
Yeah.
We're all guilty.
We're definitely all guilty of it. And we're all guilty of falling into the echo chambers. If you have this idea and your idea is constantly being reinforced by the things you're watching.
Well, yeah.
And then you don't know if it's even your idea anymore.
Especially if you just watch one news source.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% you've been kind of brainwashed. If you just watch Fox or you just watch CNN,
yeah,
you're gonna think that way, and they're just you're confirming what you already want to believe if you watch either one of those.
Yeah,
really.
You're not getting challenged in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
This whole MK Ultra, like, I've been fascinated by it for years, and for a long time I really thought that it was a conspiracy until I actually learned about it. And then I'm like, yo, this is fucking real. This is 100% real. And they had congressional hearings about it multiple times throughout the years. And none of these doctors, none of these people paid for it. Sidney Gottlieb got a freaking award and then died as a speech therapist in a small town.
And didn't they do that to Marilyn Manson? Not Marilyn Manson.
Oh.
So wasn't he down with that?
So if you're interested in learning...
Charles Manson.
Yes. So if you're interested in learning all about Tom O'Neill's research into how he links MK Ultra with Charles Manson, I highly suggest checking out our Patreon episode on the Netflix Manson documentary Chaos, because I kind of summarize it quickly there. Don't watch the documentary because, like Russ said last episode,
it sucks.
It sucks.
I heard that the book was good and that the documentary was just too short to give the information.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, but I've seen multiple interviews with Tom O'Neill, and the book sounds fascinating. You can also listen to Tom O'Neill's interview on Joe Rogan. And I think he's done a couple other interviews, but I think the Joe Rogan interview, he's on there for talking about it for like almost 3 hours. So it's very detailed. It's fascinating stuff. And now that you have the base knowledge of what MK Ultra actually is, seeing the connection to Manson is fascinating because, you know, Manson was in San Francisco. He was there during the Summer of Love. Like, hippies were their target there.
And he used LSD to get them to murder.
He gave them LSD every single day, multiple times a day.
And where was he getting all this LSD?
Where was he getting the LSD? Good question. Tom O'Neill's research is really interesting. He spent 20 years of his life down this rabbit hole. So this whole thing really fascinates me. Just, first of all, I'm obsessed with the brain, as we all know. Second of all, I know our government lies to us. I am not an optimistic person with regards to the government. I am somebody who's always questioning everyone. I hate being lied to. I hate being misled. So I don't really believe anything anybody says. And I'm constantly questioning people and researching stuff myself. When I was reading all this, I was shocked that no one paid for it, but I was not shocked that it happened. And I think that things like the Epstein list and other things right now that we're waiting to hear about,
that we want to know.
And
they're like, nah, you don't really want to know.
When it comes out, I'm not going to believe it. I think if
it's always could be edited.
Yeah. So when if the list ever gets released, which it probably won't because now they're saying there isn't one, I'm probably not going to believe it anyway.
I want to know, and like, who's in charge, man?
Billionaires, Russ.
Yeah.
They're the ones in charge. Yeah. It's when you really take a step back out of your echo chamber and you listen to things like this story and you really start observing everything, you realize that we are against each other, and that's exactly what they want. They want us against each other, focusing on each other. They want us focusing on the people in your life that you don't agree with them. If your mom and dad are right and you're left, or vice versa, and you're sitting here arguing at your Thanksgiving dinner, they want that. Because really what the problem is it's all of us against them because they're calling the shots.
What we need now to bring this world together,
what?
We can't get. We need a good Michael Jackson song. Like We Are the World, like some inspirational with the choir in the background.
We do, yeah.
Like we need a Michael Jackson song.
We need a good come together moment.
We don't got that artist out there that we would all be like, oh wow. Like,
we don't.
We should be together. Hold my hand.
Yeah. It's so true. Michael had some bangers. Man in the Mirror.
Might be the greatest artist of all time.
Man in the Mirror might be one of the best songs ever when you really listen to it.
Oh, there's so many.
There's so many good ones. But we need a come together moment. I mean, unfortunately, the last come together moment that this country had was 9/11.
I know.
And that's really sad.
Well, there probably won't be a big thing like that the government causes because they don't want us to come together.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
True.
I don't know if 9/11 is an inside job, but
I mean, that's a real conspiracy.
Whether it was an inside job or not, there's people out there that knew stuff.
Yeah.
There's always someone that knows something.
Listening to this episode, were you shocked? What are your thoughts? What is your reaction?
I figured it was worse.
You thought it was worse?
Oh, I think the government's way worse
than the children. What the children went through? Now that is next level, Russ. That's torturing kids.
The children one was crazy. But I just always assume they're doing the worst because they can just get away with it.
I know. And you know,
people go into power usually because they want to have power so they could do whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
No normal person wants to be a politician.
It's true.
Not one normal person.
Except you. Vote for us.
It's just cool to say. I'd be fucking pissed.
You'd be the worst politician.
Yeah, like, why isn't everybody minding their business?
Right? You should just start the Mind Your Business party and you can be the leader of it.
What we call it?
And then they'll be like, Russ, what are your platform stances? What is your campaign promises that you're making? And you're like, wait, I'm not making any campaign promises because I mind my business and everyone needs to just mind their fucking business.
Yeah,
I'm not promising shit.
Nope.
I promise you I'll mind my business and that's it.
I'll stay out of your business as long as you ain't hurting anybody you're stealing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to mind our business.
Yeah, I think it's what we all
need. The MYB party.
MYB.
It would be mind yo business. Y-O, not your.
Mind your business.
All right, folks. Well, I'm going to mind my business and get up out of here.
Okay. All right, everybody. Check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod, Facebook at Wife of Crime The Crime Family, and Patreon at Wife of Crime Pod. Go reset your algorithms. It's in your settings.